trash has primarily been about bad TV shows that were doomed to fail from the start. Of course, we have occasionally shown what we call TV treasures, shows that were actually much better than their short existence would suggest. But what about a show that is kinda stuck in the middle? One that wasn't necessarily terrible, but upon deeper viewing, you can see why it didn't last. Created by Gretchen J. Berg and Aaron Harberts, Pepper Dennis aired for one 13-episode season on the WB in the spring and summer of 2006, and then just completely faded into obscurity. I definitely remember watching it in its first run, and then it took me forever to finally re-find the episodes and any information on the show at all. Is there a reason it was almost erased completely from existence? It's finally time to find out. This is Pepper Dennis.
It's always the normal ones, isn't it? Quiet, God-fearing, probably buy Girl Scout cookies every year. Good morning, Mrs. Johnston. Sorry, it has to be your last.
Got a visual on a drop car, 200 feet in county.
All right, here's the deal. She can beg, she can plead, no go. You lock on her, you take the shot.
Pepper, we have a situation.
The hell tip them. All right, people, we gotta move. Mrs. Johnson, I'm Pepper Dennis, WEIE News. Are you aware it's illegal to operate a daycare center without a permit?
Huh! So who had Mary Tyler Moore meets Get Smart on their bingo card? So apparently, breaking up with John Stamos and getting cast in the X-Men movies drove supermodel Rebecca Romijn into kicking her acting career into overdrive. And thus she helped produce this show, where she plays an uber-ambitious investigative reporter for a Chicago news station. Because naturally, Pepper's ultimate desire is to get promoted to news anchor. So, of course, she's one of those people who has completely shelved any plans for a full relationship in favor of her career. Basically, they're trying to make her into the anti-Ally McBeal.
I find you so depressing.
Women have been lied to, Kimmy. They tell us we can have it all, but we can't. Some things have to wait. For me, it's this.
That's crap.
So you can imagine she gets more than a little miffed when this one guy she has a one-night stand with ends up being the one to take her dream job.
And what was all that garbage about my work not going unnoticed?
Well, kid, I get it. You're angry. But Babcock is a pro. His Q ratings are through the roof. His diction is impeccable. Plus, there's the Peter Jennings factor.
And, of course, Mr. Charlie Babcock is a bit of a jackass.
And we couldn't have done it without our very own Patty Dinkle. Thanks, Patty.
Who the
Whoa!
told you my real name?
Cut the commercial! Cut!
With all that going on, of course she's completely oblivious to the fact that she's being pined for by her camera operator Chick, who, yes, is played by former Boy Meets World star Ryder Strong. We also get her sister Kathy, who is clinging on to her ever since her husband left, and her response was to move in with Pepper and even snatch the receptionist job at her station.
Can you believe that? He just left. He didn't even say goodbye.
He just flat out ignored you?
Well, I am hiding in the pantry.
Our other major characters, for at least the first part of the show, and yeah, we'll get there, are her best friend and makeup artist Kimmy, the weather girl Blanca, who is basically Pepper with an even bigger ego and no scruples at all,
Blanca, quick, there's a tornado in Skokie. Move it!
and her boss Jack, who may be my favorite character because he's the closest thing to Lou Grant any sitcom has created in a long time.
Lasky just got back from a Caribbean vacation and he's on his way to City Hall. Save me the airtime, Jack. I'm off to get some answers.
Go. Love that gal.
Summer says he's flying there tonight. We have to get to his place and catch him before he leaves.
I'm not doing it. You are. Take the crew. I'll handle Jack and alert the authorities.
Why are you doing this?
Because you're good, Dennis. Because you never gave up on that lead. And because maybe, just maybe, I'm not the shallow jerk you take me for.
Yeah, I divulged personal information on you live on television without your approval, but I'm totally a nice guy. You'll boink me again, right?
The celebration's for you, you know.
Yeah, I'm not in the mood.
You're gonna have to get used to sharing applause with the guy.
So yeah, the whole gist of the show is essentially Babcock always getting in the way of Pepper trying to break every big story in the greater Midwest and it driving her near bonkers. Especially since she clearly still has the hots for him.
How's it make you feel? Having someone else swoop in and steal all the glory using your recipe for success.
There's a word for what happened to you, Betty. You've been Babcocked.
Jack, we got ourselves a situation. This kid doesn't want me to interview him.
I'll do it.
Works for me.
Whoa. I'm handling this, Jack.
Hey, Dennis, we're going with Babcock.
Jack, could I please speak to Babcock for a second?
What do you think we're doing here?
On a secure channel?
Why, yes! It is very much like that moonlighting show from the 80s. Why do you ask? That's actually where the irony is, because this show is almost like someone took the concept of moonlighting, or even other WB shows at the time, and found a way to completely mess everything up and present it the wrong way. I'll try to explain. At the time this show premiered, the WB had lifted itself out of the dark times when it aired the likes of Unhappily Ever After, and became prominent thanks largely to two shows, Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Charmed. The primary heads behind those shows, one of which we don't mention anymore, insist that both were about the characters' personal lives and relationships. But the network heavily promoted the action and adventure on both of them, and it clearly worked in both cases. Pepper Dennis appears to have gone in the reverse direction. It was advertised more or less as a romantic comedy, and maybe that is what the creators intended for it to be. You only need to hear the opening lines of the title song to get that. The show tries to portray Pepper as someone determined to not just prove herself in her career, but also having this dogged determination to prove she doesn't need to have any type of relationship to be a complete person. And she is supposedly in the wrong for thinking this, as just about everyone around her keeps hinting that she needs to actually slow down and get a personal life.
Kathy, I know you haven't been in the workforce ever, but inter-office romance is not a good idea. You may think differently when you're pregnant with little Charlie Babcock babies.
Pepper, there will always be promotions. You don't find love every day.
Love? This is exactly why I need to show up at that wedding by myself. To set an example for all the little flower girls out there that no matter how much pressure society puts on them to pair up and suffer a lobotomy of the soul, they have other options. I mean, how did Callie miss that? What happened to her?
I grew up.
But the idea that this character is hampering her own life and happiness by putting her career first just doesn't work here. Why? Because Pepper Dennis is damn good at her job. Every episode shows her being the smartest and most clever of everyone else and going above and beyond the call of duty to get a story and find the truth. She's like April O'Neil and Lois Lane combined without having to need her ass saved by superheroes all the time.
The real hero of the day is Pepper Dennis, WEIE's #1 reporter. Stubborn kid. Paid off tonight.
Perhaps the biggest example of this came in the 4th episode, where it sets up Pepper as having inadvertently convinced a bride to walk out on her wedding day with her anti-relationship ranting, only for it then to appear that the bride was actually kidnapped. But Pepper eventually discovers, nope, she did run away with the guy they thought kidnapped her.
Why can't everyone just leave us alone?
Because everyone thinks she's been kidnapped!
This all leads to the one aspect of the show that I can't help but love. And it's probably one big reason a lot of other people don't like it. The show attempts to humanize one of the most vilified and condemned types of people in the world. News journalists. People love to throw vitriol at the biggest investigative reporters out there for their in-your-face attitude and digging into people's personal lives. And the public in this show is shown to have that same attitude toward Pepper. What they don't understand is Pepper does what she does because she wants to help people and those who have been wronged by corruption or greed or anyone taking advantage of others. It's a blatant case of how no one likes being shown the truth until they need the truth to be told for them.
His name is Javier Diaz. He fell off a faulty scaffold at this very construction site and claims you are refusing to pay him workman's comp. I have an $84,000 invoice from this very hospital to Mr. Diaz. Also, we're hearing from reliable sources that there are 5 additional injured workers who have yet to be compensated. I'll never have that relationship with the audience, and the sad secret is, I love them. I love the people of Chicago. Everything I do is in service to them, and they have rejected me.
This is why I loved Jack's character maybe most of all, as even though he can be a hard ass himself, it's shown he clearly respects and is proud of Pepper's drive and determination.
When they brought you in here and they asked me to train you, I took one look at the skinny blonde girl, and I thought, she ain't gonna last a day. Who would have thought you'd end up my protege?
So naturally, Jack gets the boot after just 5 episodes and is replaced by this little shrimp named Les Gay.
What kind of stupid name is that?
Who has been brought in to basically turn the news department into WWE. He really is all about trying to make the news all entertaining and eye-catching and exploiting. And oh good God, this is another show that has just become even more relevant today! They might as well have had Max Headroom guest star! So the second half of the season makes Les more of the antagonist than Babcock, as now both Pepper and Babcock have to work together to try and keep the news show respectable, while Les tries to make it into a tabloid, all in the name of making the news more popular and getting ratings, and go ahead with the Fox News jokes, I've heard them all. Oh, the irony as to what happened to the actual show in real life. For those not aware, the WB had already declared in January of 2006, less than 4 months before Pepper Dennis premiered, that it would merge with UPN to form the CW network. On May 17th of that year, the day after the show's 7th episode aired, it was announced the show would not be moving to the newly merged network. Not even double airing the show on Tuesdays and Sundays, and throwing in guest stars like French Stewart and Aaron Gray could save any hope of this show continuing. All of that makes me believe the final episode was really rushed. I can't verify that this is exactly what happened because, again, little info to find, but I find it hard to believe they would have made this last episode if they had any hope of a second season. Basically, it's come out of nowhere that Babcock has to get married or else he'll be deported. Oh yeah, did I mention Babcock is Canadian? So they try to convince Pepper to give him a faux marriage to keep him in the country. But surprise, surprise, Pepper finally discovers that she really is in love with Babcock. So they end up at the very last moment getting married for real.
I don't think so.
Ready, Dennis?
Ready, Babcock.
And thus, sadly, we missed out on this show switching its format from being a moonlighting ripoff to Heart to Heart. If I had to judge Pepper Dennis, I would call it an okay show that was poorly packaged. If they had marketed it as more of an action comedy than a romantic one, maybe it would have done better. Or maybe it was just at the wrong place at the wrong time, doomed to be a victim of network politics and corporate mergers. At the very least, it didn't ruin Rebecca Romijn's acting career, as she soon after landed the role of Alexis Mead on Ugly Betty, and eventually would star on the TNT series The Librarians. She's even voiced Lois Lane herself in a number of DC animated movies since 2018, as well as starred in a couple of recent Star Trek series. As for this show itself, you are pretty much limited to digging up online uploads if you want to give this show a chance. As it's pretty much a given, it's never going to appear on any commercial streaming service ever. But you know what? At least we were able to conclude another spring season by reviewing something that wasn't that terrible. I mean, it's not like there's some type of bat-insane, god-awful show out there that I've been delaying and holding back on because I'm too damn scared to look into it.
Ay, ay, ay. We look like cartoons.
You'll be my musical slaves forever.
This is because of my budget cuts to the show, isn't it? You mess with our catnip funding, you gotta pay!